Greetings, my fellow freeloaders, sovereign thinkers. This is LO3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date, Sunday, October 15th, 2017. Yes, it's a Sunday night. Pretty mellowed along the new river of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Just hanging out. Watch a little bit of the football, the church of the NFL to be exact. Pretty interesting, entertaining, but not my church, of course. Many others are boycotting it because they're kneeling down. But the question I have is, people are angry about that. How come they weren't questioning or being infuriated when you have Department of Defense sending the National Guard for sending money to the NFL to have everyone rise for the national anthem with the players out there all holding hands and pledging to the song and all that good stuff while we have an empire? How come people aren't even or angry about that? That's one thing I always have to a little bit of head scratcher for me. But you know what? That's what happens when people, like a lot of folks, not all, but a great amount, have that one-dimensional mindset. And of course, they want to see politics involved as well, just want to get entertained. But have everything out there, go God bless the empire, be patted down like slave boys, but as long as I got my football, I am satisfied. I know I probably repeated myself a few times, but let's say what the hell, get it off my chest. Don't get me wrong, I like sports. I appreciate what the athletes do. I know a lot of them get severely injured, and even with the professional football players, dementia and all that. So a lot of risk in that as well. So enough is said on that, my little rant. So a few things I'll be talking about, which is pretty intriguing. So let's just start that there. Let's just check this out. Yeah, this just came from Unicorn Riot, and it's mainly what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. And it came out today. It says here, groups behind Unite the Right sue for illegal paramilitary activity. It says here on Thursday, October 12th, the Institute for Constitutional Advocacy and Protection, ICAP, at Georgetown Law School filed a criminal complaint in Virginia State Court against a list of organizations and individuals. The legal filing seeks to enjoin a variety of groups involved in the Unite the Right event from continuing to conduct illegal paramilitary activity in the state of Virginia. Plaintiffs in the lawsuit include the city of Charlottesville, 11 local businesses, 1 corporate owning property in Charlottesville, and 3 neighboring associations. The question is this: on the city of Charlottesville, how come it's okay for you to breach your contract with the permit? I see a witch hunt here, even though they're a bunch of quacks. I will proceed. The complaint, which names a variety of groups and individuals, seeks immediate declaratory and injunctive relief to prevent defense from returning to Virginia as organized military units in engaging paramilitary activity. If you're in the police department, in the federalized perspective, that's exceptional, right? The case made in complaint seems to center around the government's alleged monopoly on the organized use of force, the lack of required license for self-described armed security forces, as well as issues posed by heavily armed militia members in Charlottesville on August 12th, being visually indistinguishable from deployed members from the Virginia National Guard. The various militia organizations are described as private armies unaccountable to any civil power. Right-wing militias invited to Charlottesville by Unite the Right organizer Jason Kessler and Eli Mosley are also accused in the complaint of falsely assuming the functions of law enforcement. Militia are described in the complaint as purporting to serve as peacekeepers while actually using the threat of deadly force to intimidate all who would oppose the Unite the Right, which the complaint notes include not just confrontational anti-fascist, but also ambiguously peaceful protesters such as clergy. The complaint cites case law reading no independent military company has the constitutional right to parade with arms in our cities and towns, as well as Supreme Court ruling that stated military organization and military drill cannot be claimed as a right independent of law. Plaintiffs seek to prohibit the organized armed activity of the named defendants using arguments outside the scope of the Second Amendment claiming. Paramilitary organizations, as their leaders, the alt-right defendants, wielded their weapons on August 12th not as individuals exercising their Second Amendment rights, but as members of a fighting force. The factual allegations laid out in the complaint include a detailed retelling of the events of August 11th and 12th and describes the night before the Unite the Right, various militia groups engaged in joint training and exercises on a farm property in Unionville, Virginia. Defendants John Kessler and Eli Mosey are also described as reaching out to recruit militia groups to provide armed security services for Unite the Right, services which, according to the complaint, required a license from the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services. Details asserted in the complaint included evidence of a militaristic command hierarchy that premeditated the organizing for Unite the Right, with several militia leaders boasting of having people serving under them. The complaint also makes extensive use of evidence taken from the Charlottesville 2.0 Discord chat server used as planned for Unite the Right, which obtained and published in August. Specifically referenced are two different documents shared over Discord with the Unite the Right attendees. A Shield and Shield's tactics primer used to train for a making Shield wall for both offense and defense, and the general orders documents distributed by neo-Nazi organizer Eli Mosey on August 10th. The complaint includes a text of over 40 Discord messages from Charlottesville 2.0 server. The plaintiffs cite as evidence that organizers such as Kessler and Mosey knew the gathering would likely turn violent. The complaint refers to those named in two different ways, the alt-right defenders and the militia defendants. Various individuals and groups are described based on the roles they played on the weekend of August 12th. The Virginia alt-right defendants include Jason Kessler, who was primarily a local Charlottesville organizer for Unite the Right and the main facilitator for the Charlottesville 2.0 Discord server. He can be seen below at the beginning of the Torchlit March on the UAV campus on Friday, August 11th. Another key Unite the Right organizer named in the complaint is Eli Mosley, real name Elliot Klein. Mosley was recently appointed as the new leader of the violent white supremacist group Identity Europa. He was one of the main coordinators of Unite the Right, keeping a play role in playing over Discord, in overseeing the military-style units of white supremacists engaging in street violence and around Emancipation Park on August 12th. The Traditionalist Workers' Party, TWB, is in the name in the complaint, as are Matthew Hembach and Caesar Hess, two of its leaders. Hembach and the TWP were one of the main forces behind the April 29th neo-Nazi event held in Pikeville, Kentucky. To announce the formation of the new Nationalist Front, video from August 12th, Charlottesville showed the National Front's contingent, including TWB contingent led by Hembach, violently attacked a group of counter-protesters. The Nationalist Front contingent, seen in the video above, including delegations of members of the League of the South and the National Socialist Movement. The League of the South is named in the complaint along with the two chairmen, Spencer Borum and Michael Tubbs. The National Socialist Movement is also defended along with its commanders, Jeff Showep, who can be seen in the video. The neo-Nazi organization Vanguard America also announced their participation in the Nationalist Front at the April 29th event in Pikeville. Vanguard America, whose members as of recently trying to rebrand themselves as Patriot Front, is also named as a defendant. There's a video on that as well, doing the Roman salute. Militia's defendants group includes the Pennsylvania and New York chapters of the Lightfoot Militia, as well as the Christian Yingling and George Corbello. Francois Marlin is named as a defendant along with this organization, American Freedom Keepers, LLC, whose members were recently spotted at Mothers of All Rallies pro-Trump event in Washington, D.C. on September 16th. Also, a list of defendants is Ace Baker, his militia organization, American Warrior Revolution. The lawsuit also names leftist, anti-racist armed groups, Redneck Revolt, and the Socialist Rifle Club. Also includes in the mix is on the defendants list of the list of a right-wing white supremacist militias without clearly differentiating between them. This led some to view the lawsuit as an enabling, cynical attempt to increase the powers of local and state authorities that, by all accounts, stood by did basically nothing on August 12th. I could agree with that. Absolutely correct. So at least on the same page in that perspective. So I'll continue on here. Emily Gornseski, a Charlottesville resident involved in opposing the United Right, sent a series of tweets criticizing the lawsuit as harmful to the future of anti-racist self-defense efforts. Charlottesville moving on banned paramilitary organizations is just another way where the city's actions will backfire. Militias and guns had very little impact on August 12th. The city is using the presence of militias to excuse their stand-down order. The issue on August 12th were fucking Nazis. Heather was killed because of a car attack. One person fired a gun, but did not escalate. Now when Nazis come back, our community will be even more defenseless. Emily Krazenik. She wrote that, quote, October 12, 2017. What was interesting about the whole, I seen that person fired a gun too. In my view, don't be surprised if there were blanks, because I didn't see, he aimed at somebody and nothing happened. So that's just an allegation in my view, and I say that in respect. We asked Tanya Weinberg, Director of Media Relations at Georgetown Law, about the inclusion of anti-racist armed groups as defendants in the complaint. She told us the Virginia constitutional provision and statutes on which a lawsuit rely bar unauthorized militias and paramilitary activities regardless of ideology. Preston, a KKK Grand Wizard, fired a single shot toward a counter-protest as he was leaving the Emancipation Park on August 12th, but no other gunfire was heard or reported on that day. Just a short time later, James Alex Fields Jr. drove his gray Dodge Challenger into a crowd of counter-protesters, killing Heather Heyer and seriously injuring many others that he ran over with his car. Charlottesville residents claimed that the area where Fields drove into protest was supposed to have been inaccessible to vehicle traffic that day, as is often closed when the events are held downtown. Charlottesville authorities have recently come under fire after an arrest warrant was issued for DeAndre Harris, a black school teacher who was brutally beaten by white supremacists in the parking garage on August 12th. The warrant was obtained by the League of South leader Harold Ray Cruz, presenting altered evidence directly to a local magistrate, effectively bypassing the police who claimed they had no part in issuing the warrant. The warrant taken out against Harris is widely considered to be a retaliation after an online campaign led to arrest and criminal charges against several of the white supremacists who beat Harris. Richard Preston is currently in custody at the Charlottesville Regional Jail. He appeared in court on October 12th and claimed that he fired a shot in self-defense, and he was denied bond by a judge. On Friday, October 13th, Jason Kessler, along with Evan McLaren and Nathan D'Amigo of Identity Europa, appeared in court in retaliation charges filed on August 12th. All three were found guilty of failure to disperse in order to pay fines, and they reportedly plan to file appeals. Kessler recently indicted on perjury charges in an unrelated case. So it's interesting here about this, and even the bigger picture, this is a little bit sketchy. West Charlottesville getting involved, I can tell you this. They have a great point in this article that Charlottesville stood down. That's why I've been telling people respectfully, regardless what side you're on, blood is on the hands of the city of Charlottesville, their government. Not because the United Right were there or neo-Nazis, it's just they've reached their permit, the contract with this subversified organization. It doesn't matter whether it's left or right. You breach the permit. You did not comply with the contract. But technically, that's considered civil. So expect more of these lawsuits coming in. And one thing people got to look at too is Virginia's sovereign immunity and tort liability. And technically, the police really aren't obligated to protect you as an individual. So you have to really see that as well. I'm going to throw that in there in good faith, so at least folks can know what I'm actually talking about. And because a lot of these individuals assume, but they can't really see the bigger picture. And that's one thing I get really concerned with. Because one thing, the full truth of the matter is, technically the police, they're public employees, they're not obligated to protect you as an individual, regardless. So you have to look at that you have to look at that area. And of course, militias and all that. If you're going to have illegal paramilitary, you're going to be hurting everybody. It means the government can have a bigger grasp on the protest, in which you can violate your natural born rights under the Virginia Constitution. So I'm just looking this in here, and forgive me, my friends. Ooh, here it is. Is Virginia Code. Throw that right in there. It's going to take a while. I'm going to look at the Virginia Constitution as well. And it's like this, folks. I'm always into these areas. Not to toot my horn or anything like that, but just to give you my viewpoints and have the merits to back up my observation. That's a good word to use. So let me see here. Boom. Here it is, the Commonwealth from Jazista. Yeah, Justia U.S. law. It said Code of Virginia, Title Point 801, Civil Remedies and Procedure, Chapters 3, Actions, Commonwealth Transportation District or locality liability for damages in certain cases. And you can read it from here. And it says here, subject to the provisions of this article, Commonwealth shall be liable for claims for money only occurring on or after July 1st, 1982. Any transportation district shall be liable for claims for money only occurring or after July 1st, 1986. On account of damage of lost property or personal injury, death caused by negligent or wrongful act or omission, or act employee while acting within the scope of his employment under circumstances with the Commonwealth or transportation district, if a private person would be liable for the claimant for such damage, loss, or injury or death. However, except to the extent that the transportation district or contracts to do so pursuant to 15-2.4518. Neither Commonwealth nor any transportation district shall be liable for interest, part of judgment, or punitive damage. Damages. The amount recovered by any claimant shall not exceed $25,000 for causes of action occurring prior to July 1st, 1988. 75,000. So 75,000 causes, actions. Is all that interesting here? I'm just going to look right down. So anything they do with the Commonwealth or locality, you can't really sue. So that's what they're saying right here. So that's why you always got to look at those areas. If they actually were involved, that's one thing. But if they weren't involved, then if you get beat up by people and the police are there sitting there and watch, you can't sue them because that's that sovereign immunity law. So you have to see that area. And another thing too, if you even look at the Virginia Constitution, let's look up the Virginia Constitution on here, on Article 1. Something we should all be learning, you know what I'm saying? But it's one of those areas you have to, just always gotta observe, my friends. Think, gotta think. You don't want us to contemplate. Just go get angry and go after each other by the throat, All right, let's look at Article 1. Militia. Article 1, Section 13. That a real regular militia composed of the body of the people trained to arms is the proper, natural, safe defense of a free state. Therefore, the right to the people to keep it balanced shall not be infringed. That standing armies in time of peace should be avoided as dangerous to liberty, and that cases of the military should be under strict subordination and governed by the civil power. Very interesting there. So that'd be a good constitutional challenge on Article 1, Section 13 of the Virginia Constitution. And of course, you can look at too about equal rights of men and all that as well. So yeah, so I'm definitely I'll leave that in there. And of course, you can read the rest of it, 17 and all that good stuff. So it's always good to know about the Bill of Rights. So I'm going to add that to the memo, because that is a constitutional challenge. So there's some good points from the people who are from the anti-fascist side. Got a good pinpoint, so I got to give that person credit. And I got to say too, sometimes Unicorn Riot, you can say what you want, but I can say it's a half decent article, and he did a good job. It's not-for-profit and independent. You can look at things across the board. And even, like I said in the past, on this whole Charlottesville thing, I see a lot of fishy areas. It was doomed to fail. And I do see provocateurs and plants on both sides of the paradigm. So you could, just share me your views on this. That'd be great. I would love to hear everyone's side. And it's, it's all good. So I'm going to add those to the footnotes so you can make your own judgment. All right, next one here, my friends. Came out yesterday from the Florida Bulldog. This is cute. First Amendment claims seen as RX for drug makers, headaches for consumers. So about Big Pharma. This is by Paul Rayburn. Fair warning. And it says here on October 26, 2005, Albert Coronia, a sales consultant for a little-known pharmaceutical company based in California, met with a doctor to discuss promotion of one of the firm's drugs. The drug presented a depressant called Xerum had been approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to treat only certain patients with the sleep disorder narcolepsy. But Coronia maintained a conversation with the doctor that was recorded by federal investigators that the drug could be used to treat an array of other sleep or muscle ailments. There was a problem with Coronia's claim. None of these extra use of Xerum, the prescription version of a date rape street drug, it's like roofies, had been approved by the FDA. In the eyes of the agency, benefits of the unapproved uses were unproven and the results potentially dangerous. In 2008, Coronia was convicted of violating federal law by pushing Xerum for unapproved purposes, a practice known as off-label promotion. But in 2012, a federal appeals court in a 2-1 decision threw out Coronia's conviction on the grounds that had nothing to do with the safety of the drug and its potential misuse. The court found that the government prosecuted Coronia for mere off-label promotion, and that such activity is a protection of commercial speech under the First Amendment, as long as not shown to be false or misleading. The case moldered for several years later, but is now increasingly being recognized as a potential landmark decision that could have profound implications for the FDA and public health. Two settlements since late 2015, apparently influenced by Coronia's ruling, and a case pending before another federal appeals court, are fueling debate about whether the First Amendment's protection of commercial speech could undermine the FDA's ability to prevent drug marketing abuses. What's more, changing political dynamics, especially the anti-regulatory aim of the Trump administration and Republican-dominated Congress, could free drug makers to push the boundaries of the law. The stakes are high. Off-label promotion has long been considered a serious white-collar crime. The FDA has fined drug companies billions of dollars for off-label violations. The aim has been to prevent them from overseeing the benefits and understanding the risk of their products, a practice known as misbranding, and one that sometimes leads to patients getting drugs that prove harmful or even deadly. The trend toward curtailing off-label restrictions worries Aaron Castlehan. Hi. Yep. A physician and lawyer at Harvard University and an expert on drug and medical devices policy issues. Pharmaceutical manufacturers have a long history of making promotional statements around biased studies, or emphasizing the positive studies and de-emphasizing the negative studies. Kaiser said, what they've done that in the past, it led to substantial morbidity and mortality because of the power of manufacturers' promotional measures in influencing physicians' prescribing methods. As an example of past drug companies' abuses, Kaiser cited the promotion of antipsychotic medicines to elderly patients, which he said were associated with 60% or 70% increase in death rate, and the promotion of antidepressants to children, which will link to an increase of suicidal behavior. So the prosecutors haven't quit pressing ahead with off-labeling marketing lawsuits. And in July, for example, Colleen Corp, a drug company based in Summit, New Jersey, agreed to pay $280 million to settle fraud allegations linked to the promotion of 2 cancer treatment drugs for use not approved by the FDA. Unlike the Corina dispute, through the case focused not on free speech issues, but with allegations the company violated the Federal False Claims Act by submitting false claims to Medicare and to the 28 states and the District of Columbia. Trump in March also pleased industry executives with his choice to head the FDA. Scott Liable, a physician who favors the line promotion of unapproved uses for drugs, for the sharing for scientific evidence can sometimes have important public health benefits, he wrote in the 2008 commentary. He chastised those who pursue a rigid adherence to restrictions on drug promotion. The Corina decision meshes neatly with the Trump administration's anti-regulatory agenda. On January 31st, just days after the inauguration, President Trump delivered a welcome message to a gathering of pharmaceutical industry executives that he would be streamlining the FDA's approval process. We're going to get rid of a tremendous number of regulations, he said, according to a White House press release. The FDA turned down a request for an interview with Hatchet, the agency which held a little-noted meeting on off-label promotion last November, just 2 days after the presidential election, said it is engaged in a comprehensive review of its regulations and policies regarding off-label communications. The outcome is being eagerly awaited by the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America, the dominant pharmaceutical industry trade group. It said at the meeting that its members are asking the FDA establish a clear, safe harbor for drug makers to share truthful and not misleading information about off-label uses. Under federal law, the FDA approves drugs for particular uses when drug makers submit scientific evidence demonstrating that those uses are safe and effective. At that point, the companies are allowed to promote the drugs for those specific uses. With doctors, the situation is different. The FDA said it's not eager to interfere with the practice of medicine, so it has allowed doctors the flexibility to prescribe drugs for unapproved uses. Doctors and researchers can also share information about unapproved uses at medical meetings or in the pages of the medical journals. Part of the reasoning in the 2012 Corina ruling was that if doctors are going to prescribe off-label uses anyway, shouldn't all of the truthful information about the drugs be available then? Drug companies that violate the law sometimes have paid a steep price. The pharmaceutical industry paid more than $30 billion in fines in between 2006 and 2015 for labels, promotions, and other offenses. At the top of the pharmaceutical list of pharmaceutical giant, GlaxoSmithKline, in 2012, it pleaded guilty and paid $3 billion to settle criminal and civil charges related to the off-label promotion of the antidepressants Paxil and Wellbutrin and diabetes drug Avidia. The U.S. Justice Department said the company, among other things, sponsored dinner programs, lunch programs, spa programs, and similar activities to promote the use of Paxil in children and adolescents. Even though the antidepressant hadn't been approved for use in patients under 18. The Justice Department also said Glaxo prepared a misleading medical article portraying Paxi as effective, while suppressing 2 studies that found that it wasn't. The drug center at the Courtney case, Xerum, won FDA approval in 2002. It was marketed by Orphan Medical Inc., a small company in Minnetonka, Minnesota, that specialized in the so-called orphan drugs. Such drugs treated rare diseases and as a result often bring little revenue and get little scant attention from drug makers or researchers. By 2005, Xerum was generated a $20 million revenue pocket change in the industry, where blockbuster drugs can yield annual sales in the billions. Xerum's prospects seem limited in part because the FDA required every package to carry a black box warning the agency's most serious adversary for prescription drugs. The current wording of the warning and an apparent reference to the drug's link to date rape cites the risk of misuse and abuse, and noted that the adverse reactions associated with Xerum's active ingredient have included decreased consciousness, coma, death. The active ingredient, often called GHB, can make you weak and confused or even pass out, so you can't tell if you're being drugged, said the Federal Government Office of Women's Health. Yet, Orphan Medical, and later on its new owner, Jazz Pharmaceutical Inc., which moved the headquarters from Palo Alto, California to Dublin, Ireland in 2012, had ambitious plans. Alta Carina was hired to promote Xerum and in around New York City areas as part of the aggressive marketing effort. And this here is a page right here by Public Citizen about all the settlements they did and numbers and all that, so you can see this for yourselves. Carina's charge was boost to sales and make Xerum much more than a niche drug. His approach was revealed in an October 2005 taped conversation with a doctor who was serving as a government informant in an investigation of orphan. Carina suggested unapproved uses of the medicine. He also told the doctor about the diagnostic codes to use to get insurance reimbursements. And Carina encouraged the doctor to prescribe it for children and elderly patients for whom it had not been approved. According to the recording, Carina said there have been reports of patients as young as 14 using it and obviously greater than 65. Carina said it's a very safe drug. Drug enforcement officials did not see it that way. On the street, Xerum was known as GHB or liquid ecstasy. It became popular in the 1990s and at raves, which was used to boost libido and cause amnesia, leaving users vulnerable to a sexual assault. Its sometimes deadly side effects include difficulty breathing, while sleep, depression, nausea, vomiting, seizures, and comas. Investigators eventually zeroed in on Courtney. In July 2007, a grand jury returned an indictment charging him with 2 misdemeanor offenses related to introducing a misbranded drug into interstate commerce. Another Jazz pharmaceutical consultant was also indicted in connection with running a speakers program promoting Xerum. In October 2007, Courtney sought to have the charges dismissed on the grounds that it restricted his First Amendment free speech rights and that the misbranding provisions were unconstitutionally vague and broad. In October 2008, a jury convicted Courtney, and you're going to hear the train going by right now. So just hang tight. Woo, yeah. So it's going pretty slow. So if you hear the horns, don't panic. I'm gonna make sure that you still hear my voice. All right. So it says here in October 2008, a jury convicted Courtney of conspiring to introduce a prescription drug into interstate commerce with the intent that it would be used in ways its labeling neither disclosed or described. Just over a year later, he was sentenced to a year of probation, $100 community service, and a small fine. He appealed. In December 2012, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals in New York, the 2-1 decision vacated the conviction on free speech grounds. We do not hold, of course, the FDA cannot regulate the marketing of prescription drugs. The court said we conclude simply that a government cannot prosecute pharmaceutical manufacturers and the representatives for speech promoting the lawful off-label use of an FDA-approved drug. But the dissenting judge, Judge Deborah Ann Livingston, wrote that the majority calls into question to the very foundations of a century-old system of drug regulation, leaving companies with little incentive to seek approval for off-label uses of drugs. Courtney was fired by Jazz, has left the pharmaceutical industry, is now working as a carpenter, according to his attorney in the case. Thomas Lighty of Garden City, New Jersey, Courtney didn't do anything wrong here, said Liotti. He presented the warning label to the doctors. The doctors who cooperated with federal investigators had a script prepared by FDA agents to get Courtney to say this or to get him to say that, Louisa said. So they're probably saying right here he may be entrapped. He's going to use him as a fall guy. The Courtney case is now beginning to cause some ripples. Courtney upended decades of pharmaceutical law. Christopher Robertson, a University of Arizona's law professor, wrote in June in the discussion paper called The Tip of the Iceberg. He noted that the FDA did not appeal the decision, maintain that the ruling would have little effect on other cases, but recent history has proven otherwise. The last year, the FDA agreed to the settlement that allows Amarin Corp to engage in truthful promotion of its fish oil, Vascepa, for unapproved use. And it's allowed the company to affirm whether the promotion meets the standard. The FDA refused as Amarin sued, making a First Amendment argument and invoked the Courtney case as a precedent. In August 2015, a federal judge in Manhattan agreed with the company, ruling that under Courtney, the FDA cannot accuse the company of misbranding based on truthful promotional speech alone. In 2012, Amarin won the FDA approval for Vascepa to treat high levels of certain fats in the blood. In the wake of the decision, the company sought permission from the FDA to promote the drug for use in patients with low levels of fats called triglycerides. In March 2016, the FDA settled the case with Amarin and said it would allow the expanded promotion based on scientific evidence that was previously submitted. That outcome demonstrated that the agency has departed significantly from its traditional position on the issue. Policy analysis Deborah Mazur and Gregory Kaufman wrote on the blog of the journal Health Affairs. They added that its potential reach is vast. In December 2015, while Amarin battle is underway, the FDA settled with another company that raised First Amendment argument. Parika. All right. The company won the ability to promote the expanded use of its pain drug, Exparel. The FDA rescinded a warning letter to send the company the year before, noting that the drug was approved by the agency only for treatment of pain after surgery for bunions or hemorrhoids. Meanwhile, another new legal battle with free speech implications has come up in the First Circuit Court of Appeals in Boston. It is the first off-label promotion case outside the Second Circuit, where the others arose. It involved a medical device, Clear Sciences, made by Acclarent. Two executives convicted of marketing the device for off-label uses are appealing. Congress has shown interest in loosening restrictions on July 12th, while efforts to repeal and replace Obamacare were dominating the headlines. The House Subcommittee of Health held a hearing to review two bills relating to the promotion of label uses of drugs and devices. The subcommittee, chaired by Texas Republican Michael C. Burgess, a doctor, said the idea behind the bills was to spread scientific information to help doctors to make right decisions on use of drug. Lack of relevant information can lead to physicians making patient care decisions with incomplete information. This is both unfair to the physician and unsafe for the patient. Oregon Republican Greg Walden, the chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee, of which the Health Subcommittee is part, that the bill do not provide manufacturers for free rein to communicate in any all information about the products, but they do also allow drug companies to responsibly disseminate accurate and up-to-date information about medical products. In a background memo preparing for the hearing, the subcommittee says that proposed legislation would clarify what drug makers can say without fear or retribution. Namely, they must be clear about the data supporting their claims and did not claim that unapproved uses are safe and effective. But R. Altachero, a professor of law and bioethics at the University of Wisconsin, raised warning flags and prepared testimony for the hearing. She said the bill risks eviscerating the general rule against off-label promotion with potential harms to patients. Studies have repeatedly shown that even products that look promising in early trials will usually be shown to be unsafe or ineffective when larger trials are completed. Other observers, such as University of Arizona's Robertson, view the push toward greater latitude for off-label promotion part as a broader legal pattern, including U.S. Supreme Court rulings striking down laws on First Amendment grounds. It points to the Citizens United case that expanded free speech protections to corporations and the ruling that overturned a law banning depictions of dogfighting. Robertson also cited the Hobby Lobby decision, which recognized the religious freedom and rights of business owners in almost every way you can imagine. They are breaking down the wall of what is protected speech, what isn't, and in every case is always more power to the First Amendment, he said. So that was based from fairwarning.org, which is a non-profit news organization based in Pasadena, California, that focuses on public health, consumer, and environmental issues. Ooh, interesting stuff here, huh? I would say. So you guys say about the free speech and how they're going to sell it to you and all that good stuff. They do have some merit behind that, believe it or not. But we'll always have to get all that information, how accurate this drug is, the both negative side effects, all this. It's got to be completely done in good faith. Respect the sales pitches. There's nothing new at all. But every consumer out there needs to be more enlightened on the knowledge of what these medicines can and can do, the do's, the pros and cons, the positive and negative side effects, and learn. We got to start learning as folks on taking care of our health and using more natural remedies to better ourselves. There's areas in here that have natural remedies that can really help you for sleep, muscle ailments, backache, sleeping disorders, etc. So that's one of the areas I can tell you about. Because to be very sincere, my friends, I am not really crazy about Big Pharma, especially with some of their lobbying schemes and all that. But one thing we got to know for sure about the free speech, even with them, is that if there's going to be a slippery slope, you have to expect that. But one thing for sure, we got to be strongly vigilant. Beware of this aggressive marketing efforts and when they try to sell these certain products. We have to observe responsibly. We got to do your homework on other areas to make ourselves better, take care of our health a lot more. If we don't do it now, we're going to pay later. That's the only one of the ways you can get Big Pharma off our backs. Is people have the freedom of conscience. Don't rely on these big companies as a whole. So, there's a long article, I gotta admit it. Wow. So, let me see what's going on right now. Boom. Wow, man, that's a really long article. You probably hate my voice already, but sorry about that. Alright, well, next one here. These are a little bit pretty short. It came out from the 10th Amendment Center, and it's by Tom Meharry. Is it Tom Meharry? Mike Meharry. Sorry about that, Michael. It says here, CNN resurrects old school anti-nullification hatchet job. This article is featured in this weekend's 10th newsletter, which everyone in the nullification movement gets daily or weekly. So, it says here, CNN resurrect the old school hatchet job template for nullification article this week. Andrew Kaczynski and Chris Massey breathlessly reported Alabama Republican congressional candidate Roy Moore signed a resolution in 2010 affirming the rights of states to nullify or avoid federal law. While the goal was to attack Moore, the tool they used to do so was nullification. We haven't seen any nullification story following this script in quite a while, but Kaczynski and Massey checked off all the boxes. Inference that nullification supporters are a bunch of racists. Check. John C. Calhoun reference. Check. Marginalizing nullification supporters as extremists. Check. Obligatory quote from ignorant law professor. Check. They double down that with two. Secession reference. Check. Civil War reference. Check. Of course, Kaczynski and Massey leaves out any discussion of Thomas Jefferson or James Madison. You know, the guys who first formalized the principle of nullification. No, it wasn't Calhoun. They do bring up Jefferson in reference to secession. And I hit the wrong button. Alright. In reference to session, though, our intrepid reporters claim nullification was never upheld in federal court, but failed to mention the anti-commandeering doctrine, the legal principle based on 4 major Supreme Court opinions dating back to 1842 that support modern nullification efforts. Kaczynski and Massey dutifully reminded us their segregationist appeal to nullification during the Civil Rights era, but conveniently mention northern states successfully nullified the Fugitive Slave Acts in the years leading up to the Civil War or the war between the United States and the Confederate States. I'll have to add it in there. And there's a video on that as well. Just check it out yourselves, folks. And another train's coming by. Hold on. They report some state legislators have passed non-binding resolutions asserting their sovereignty under the 10th Amendment, but never get around talking about recent nullification case successes, such as marijuana legalization and right-to-try laws. Even hardcore progressives have jumped on a nullification bandwagon with so-called sanctuary cities. That's apparently not on Kaczynski and Massey's radar. Oh, good times. It takes me all the way back to 2010. In fact, 2010 appears to be when Kaczynski and Massey started and ending their research on this story. It's really quite a time capsule. This was a type of nullification stories back then, before it became widely acknowledged, even within the mainstream media, that states could indeed refuse to cooperate with the enforcement of federal laws and the implementation of federal programs. See above the anti-commandeering doctrine. There's a link for that, folks. The CNN story revolves around the 10th Amendment Summit, and even the event the TeknoAXE helped organize in 2010. The report referenced the 10th Amendment Center and links to our website. Funny though, Kaczynski and Massey never contacted us for the story. I like to give them a benefit of the doubt and assume they just couldn't find our contact information, except there's Google and the fact they linked our website in the story. And it's funny about this, he made a little comment to them, to K-File. It would be good if next time you do a story citing the 10th Amendment, you actually contact us. I learned that in journalism school. I went to journalism school. I learned you should make every effort to get input from anybody you name in the story. I learned you should do thorough research, like actually reading some of the content on the website you link, so you understand every side of an issue. I learned bias can slip through and what you leave out of a story, as well as in what you put in. I learned putting these basic journalistic principles into practice helps keep you from writing stories that make you look like an ignorant boob. That's journalism 101. Maybe Karzinski and Massey didn't take that class. Or maybe they don't actually care about journalism. He's absolutely right, my friends. And you know what? That's what I tell everybody. Never go on face value. Examine everything the best you can. Then you can make your own judgment. What's so hard about that? But remember, the CNN, Commie News Network, Counterfeit News Network, Clown News Network, Circus News Network. I can go on. I'll be digressing. Hey, my friends, they want to end an anti-nullification Hatchet job. It proves one thing. They breached their oath as registered voters. Ain't that sweet? Dumb and Dumber. Kaczynski and Massey. The dynamic duo, the bend over bobbin duo, based on this article. Proves one thing. You've chosen poorly, mates. And sorry that you just shot yourselves in the foot once again. And this is why an individual like myself laugh at your station. And I'm not a subscriber to cable TV. I don't even take the initiative on reading your articles because they mostly blow. It's like the other lamestream news sites out there. And don't get me wrong, you got great journalists within these institutions, but the clowns are calling the shots. Just like Huey and Dewey of CNN. And you know what? I'm done with that. Alright, my friends, one more thing here. Interesting. Here's Courtney Love speaking out about Harvey Weinstein in 2005 by Christine Roselli. And it says here in the event in 2005, singer Courtney Love was asked on the red carpet if she had any advice for young women looking to get into Hollywood. After a long pause and quip about the possibility of a libel suit for what she said about, Love looked directly in the camera and said, "If Harvey Weinstein invites you to a private party at the Four Seasons, don't go." There's a video link for that. Weinstein settled with actress Rose McGowan after she claimed he assaulted her in a hotel room at the Sundance Film Festival 20 years ago. Other actresses, including Kate Beckinsale, have come forward to claim that Weinstein acted inappropriately towards them in the hotel room, often used under the guise of a private party. This is just the latest thing to come out about how Hollywood knew for years that Weinstein was a dangerous predator. Given that Weinstein had very real power to ruin a person's career, and that people spoke out about his abuse and others in the industry were either ignored, mocked, or worse, it's understandable how people kept their experiences to themselves instead of floodgates open with the New York Times piece. It's sickening that it has gone on for years and was an open secret in the industry. At least something now is being done, and hopefully the future women who warn others about pervs in Hollywood will be taken seriously. And it's not just the women, it's anyone else, including the young men, young boys, girls, it doesn't matter. They should not be victims of sexual predatory or be harassed. That violates their space. And I'll be very frank, I am not a fan of Courtney Love. Okay, there's a lot of controversy with her with the death of Kurt Cobain, but you know what? I've read it, I've seen the video. She's right, has merit, and she warned. But remember, my friends, credibility is the best policy. That's one thing you have to really look at. So when you hear these claims, observe it responsibly, see how far it goes. But one thing I know for sure, the Church of Hollywood is a cesspool of lust, contempt, and totally tyrannical. Even the corporate music industry as well. And I've seen some interesting stuff in my time too, and I'm not going to talk about this on my show, alright? So, hey, Courtney Love's right, but is she involved with Kurt Cobain's death? That's still a mystery. But many of us still believe, respectfully, that she was involved. But that's how far I'm going to go. Alright, my friends, that's it. I'd like to thank everyone for listening, but feel free to download and share it throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you can say something that's interesting you may want to check out, whatever you do, please address your correspondence with the core. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Scene.life, Minds.com, Patreon.com, Gab.ai, and wow, that's it. Not really. Hold on. I forgot my cue card. But yeah, Freedoms Network, Scene.life, Minds.com, Futureclub.net. Okay, sorry about that. And YouTube. Okay, well, in addition, you can email me at LokiLuck3@gmail.com or LokiLuck03@protonmail.com if you folks want to send me encrypted information, okay? Alright, my friends, once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance helps for soul can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.